Good morning, everyone. Hi, how are we today? Just getting situated here. It's been a morning, but I'm so excited to talk to you today. So let's see. This looks good. This looks good. Okay. Mic on. No echo. All right. So, yeah, I am so pumped to talk to you guys about today. As you see in my title here, we're going to talk a little bit about planning your week for your goals. And this is literally something that has changed my life and has transformed the results that my clients see. And we're talking about weekly planning for weight loss. Seems obvious, right? But in my opinion, for most busy moms, it is the key to success. And it's just not as easy as it sounds because otherwise, everyone would be doing it. But first, I want to take a quick moment to celebrate a personal win with you guys. I did a 10-day cleanse from coffee and caffeine, and it's been 10 days. Well, maybe 9 because today's the 10th day, but we're back. So I've got my Buffalo Bills mug here. I actually stopped this morning off at Grand Park Coffee, one of my favorite shops, because it's kind of on my walk on my way down to the office after dropping off my kids. And I stuck to my plan. I had my breakfast first, had some water, and then had my coffee and had an almond milk coffee. And, I feel like I was able to just like enjoy it a little bit more. Have any of you tried this? Now this is not like a mandatory thing, that everyone needs to do to like get results for weight loss or anything like that. It was more something that I wanted to just challenge myself with because from time to time, every so often, I go through a season where I feel like caffeine just gets like a hold on me. And I'm like not just drinking it to enjoy it for the intentions of using the caffeine. I'm like just waking up and running to go get a coffee and like injecting it in my veins. And the seasons that I feel like I experienced that were, firstly after my first baby in that early postpartum period, again after my second, and then this past December. If you know, it was a December, right? I mean, obviously like nationwide, we know that like flu was just everywhere. But it was just like a little extra. So I found myself just not having a great relationship with it. And so I challenged myself with a lot of my coaching clients as we were sort of kicking off a plan and a program to just do this. So I made it. And I'm back. So, and I feel better. I feel like I'm going to keep the habit of waking up, drinking a glass of water, having my breakfast, and then having my coffee and actually being able to use the caffeine. So, do you guys have any wins from January so far? Let me take a look and see if anyone's even listening. I feel like I've finally learned how to see this, see the chat. No chats yet. No chats yet. That's okay. I'm not sure there's any viewers. Oh, wait, I see two. Okay, so someone's on. Just making sure we're good to go here. We're live. Awesome. Yeah. So yeah, feel free to chime in. Let me know if you guys have any wins from January as well. Would love to hear them. So, but yeah, I have to say, enjoying my coffee, adding it back in. And shout out to my Bills. If you know, again, Haley Steinfeld, if you're listening, you're about to be a mom and your husband, Josh Allen, was ice this weekend. He had ice in his veins. I want to be like Josh Allen this year. I don't want to blink. I want to be super composed and unstoppable. So I'm embracing my Buffalo Bills because that was one hell of a win this weekend. And now I'm on caffeine. So I'm hyped now. All right. Well, let's jump in, guys. So let's get to the meat of what I want to talk about with you today. So have you ever told yourself this? This is the week that I'm getting back on track. Like this is the week, right? You buy the groceries, you have good intentions, and then suddenly it's Thursday and you're running out to grab a mellow mushroom pizza because nothing works in your refrigerator for dinner. I'm telling you this because this was literally me. But in all seriousness, then you wonder, like, why is weight loss so hard for me? Spoiler alert, it's because it's not because you're lazy. It's not because you lack discipline. And it's definitely not because you don't want it bad enough, but it's because no one ever taught you how to plan your life like a mom who wants to lose weight. If your weight loss plan only works when life is calm, then it's not a real plan. Because moms, anyone out there listening, right? We don't live in calm, right? We live in chaotic mornings, sports schedules, birthday parties, laundry piles, and kids who somehow need to eat, right? Um, and so, yeah, it's not going to be perfect. Life is crazy. And a lot of times, what we're told, what we hear is, just eat healthier, just be more consistent, just stop snacking. Cool. Like, we don't know all of that, right? But here's the truth: most moms don't actually overeat. I work with hundreds of moms, and the problem isn't typically that they're overeating, or eating processed foods or anything like that. They overeat, or probably more likely undereat, I should say, because they're not prepared. They're just unprepared for the week. They're going in, off the cuff because they haven't taken the time in their busy weekend or prioritized it to come up with the plan. And willpower is just a trash strategy when you're exhausted. You can't rely on that. It's not about having superhuman discipline on a random Tuesday when you're exhausted and your kids are losing their minds. It's about having a system that works for your real life. It's about making decisions once at the beginning of the week when you're calm and clear-headed, so you don't have to make them in the moment when you're starving and staring into an empty fridge. So today, really, I'm going to pull back the curtain on exactly how I plan my week and how I teach my clients to do the same. And these aren't just like tips that I read in a book somewhere. This is actually what I do every single week to maintain my weight loss. And it's what's helping the busy moms that I work with, just like you, to finally break through that plateau. So let's jump in. I've been doing this system now for a couple of years, probably since my second baby was born when she was about 18 months old. And it's not just about weight loss anymore. It's really reduced my stress levels. It saved me some money and given me back some of my evenings. Instead of just trying to scramble to figure out dinner at 6 p.m. every night, I'm hanging out with my kids. I'm not, cleaning and meal prepping for 8 hours on the weekends. Instead, I'm able to go to basketball games with my kids and watch an entire NFL game on Sunday. I'm actually enjoying my life while losing weight. And that's exactly what I want for you. All right, so let's get tactical here. The very first thing I do when I'm planning my week is to build out my menu. And I'm talking about every single meal: breakfast, lunch, and dinner. Now, I know some people like to just wing it or have kind of a general idea of what they're eating. That doesn't work for weight loss. You need specifics. You need to know exactly what's going on in your plate, because that's how you stay in control of your portions and your overall intake. So here's my process. I sit down, and if my husband's listening, he'll laugh at this because I always say, I use that consultant kind of lingo, like, let's sit down and talk about it. But I do. I sit down and I make a plan, but it works, So I sit down usually on like Thursday evening, Friday morning, and I'll open the notes tab on my phone or the notes app on my phone, and I literally type out 7 breakfasts, lunches, and dinners. And I break it out even like by the store that I'm shopping at, because lately I've been going to the farmer's market on Friday night and then doing a quick Publix shop to get like any of the other items that aren't available at the farmer's market. And that's like, pull-ups, body wash, and popsicles to keep the kids sane, to use as a bribe for my kids if I need it. And now I don't necessarily do this every week anymore because I reuse my plan. So you can kind of spend that time initially, up front doing it. And then I probably change it every month or so when I start to get like bored of my meals. But I'm thinking through the specifics of my week. And I'm also thinking about like adding a little variety in there so I don't get bored. I personally don't really care too much about variety when it comes to like breakfast or lunches, but I definitely care and my family does about our dinners. That's just the way we operate. If we don't enjoy our dinners together, sometimes they just don't go as well, right? So I get it. This is important, especially for a somewhat peaceful dinner, right? So especially for busy parents on an evening. So for breakfast, back to breakfast. I tend to keep things simple during the week because mornings are chaotic. I might plan for 2 boiled eggs, 2 slices of turkey bacon, with a bowl of berries or a banana. And then, maybe on the weekend, something a little bit more creative like an omelet or paleo pancakes, with some bacon on the side or slices of avocado. But the key is that I write it down and I commit to it and I have a plan. And then for lunch, here's where I'm going to share one of my biggest game changers. I actually use a meal prep service for 3 of my lunches every week. And yes, it costs money, but it saves me so much time and mental energy. These meals show up ready to go. They're healthy and portioned out, and I don't have to think about them. And that leaves me with 4 other lunches to plan, which are usually just leftovers from dinner or something simple like a big salad, with some protein, like a packet of tuna, leftover chicken. Then that leaves dinner. So this is where I really think about my family. And, I've got 2 kids who sometimes want different things, than what we're having. So I try my best to make them eat what I'm eating, but sometimes I just don't want to deal with the fight, right? And that's okay. Like I plan for that. So, if I'm making salmon and asparagus one night, because I try to get fish in at least once a week, I usually plan for something else for my kids because they just don't really love fish. So, I'll make them like hot dogs and mac and cheese instead, just to keep the peace, right? And I'll add that packet of hot dogs and that box of mac and cheese to my meal plan and my menu and my shopping list, so I have the plan. So I'm not making myself crazy trying to get my kids to eat exactly what I eat all the time. I'm just being realistic about what everyone needs. And the magic of writing all of this down is that you can see your whole week at a glance. You can make sure you're getting enough protein. You can make sure you're not eating the same thing every single day and getting bored. And you can identify where you might need to prep a little bit more ahead. And this menu becomes literally your roadmap for the entire week. And here's something that works for me as well. So on top of that, I also keep a running list of meals on the side of my fridge on a whiteboard for, things that I'm missing or, things that didn't work, alternatives that I want to add. And after a few weeks of doing this, you'll have a rotation of not only meals that you've learned like work for you and everyone enjoys, but you'll also know like what you need to add to your shopping list to just be even better prepared the next week. So yeah. Write out that shopping list, write out the menu, write out all 7 breakfast, lunches, and dinners. So then once you have your menu built, of course, now this leads into the time to do your shop. And when you shop matters just as much as what you buy. So I do my grocery shopping, wait for it, Friday night usually. It's an exciting Friday night. It's wild as a parent, right? Maybe sometimes Saturday morning, but I really try to get ahead of the game. And this timing is intentional. By doing it on Friday night, I find it always leads to the most successful next week. I'm setting myself up, to have a whole weekend to meal prep without feeling rushed. I'm not trying to cram shopping in on Saturday morning. When I also need to get to a basketball game or a birthday party, Friday gives me a little buffer time. And when I walk into that grocery store or the farmer's market, usually right now, I'm walking in with a very specific list based on my menu that I made. I'm not wandering down the aisles, seeing what looks good. I'm not impulse buying snacks, that will derail me. I know exactly what I need because I've already planned every single meal. And this approach does 2 things. So first, it saves me money. When you shop without a plan, you overbuy. We all know that. We've done it. I've done it, right? You end up going to Publix and you're like, how did I spend $300? Like I did that over the holidays easily. You buy things, you don't need, you buy duplicates of things you already had at home. And when you shop with a list, you just buy what you need and nothing more. Second, it keeps you accountable to your plan. When you only buy the healthy food that you've planned for, that's what you'll eat. Out of sight, out of mind. You're not bringing the temptations into the house that will sabotage you on Wednesday night when you're stressed out and looking for some comfort. So now I also want to mention this. Like, I keep that running list on the side of my refrigerator all week long. And this is for those things you notice you're running out of between shops. Maybe you're low on olive oil, or you use the last of the almond butter. Write it down immediately so you don't forget it. And then if I need to do a midweek top up shop, which I usually do, then I've got my list ready. This prevents me from running out of the healthy staples I need and then resorting to Uber Eats by Thursday or Mellow Mushroom for that pizza because there's nothing to eat in the refrigerator. Shopping strategically is one of the simplest but most powerful tools in your weight loss arsenal. It takes a couple minutes to write a list, and it sets you up for success all week long. All right, so you've planned your menu, you've done your shopping on Friday, and now it's the weekend, and this is when the meal prep magic happens. But here's what I don't do. I don't sacrifice my entire weekend to meal prep. I'm not spending 8 hours in the kitchen on Sunday while my family does fun things without me. That's not sustainable. You'll burn out so fast. It's not necessary. Instead, I plan with a specific window of time for meal prep. Maybe it's early Saturday morning from like 8 to 9 before basketball games. Maybe it's Sunday afternoon, from 2 to 4 when the kids are napping. But the point is I block out the time, I protect the time, and I make it non-negotiable. But it's just a couple of hours, and that's it. During my meal prep window, I'm knocking out the things, that will make my week easier. I might cook a big batch of chicken breasts and a couple pounds of ground beef that I can use in different meals. I might wash, and chop up all my veggies for the week. I might boil a dozen eggs and air fry some turkey bacon and portion them out for my breakfasts. These are really the building blocks that let me throw together meals quickly during the week. And here's something really important. Before I even start cooking, I clear out my fridge and my pantry and I throw away anything that's expired or wilted. I wipe down the shelves real quick, just kind of organize things, make some space for the new healthy items that I bought. And, this might sound like a small thing, but it really is huge because a clean, organized fridge makes you want to eat the healthy food that you prepped. And, I felt like this over the holidays, like a messy fridge it's just hard to, find anything. And then you get demotivated. You just reach for the, frozen pizza or call Uber Eats, right? So now I mentioned that I keep my meal prep to like a specific window of time on the weekends. And that's because I still need to live my life, right? I've got kids with basketball games on Saturdays and birthday parties to go to, and my husband and I want to watch the Bills game on Sunday and, not feel guilty because I didn't do what I needed to do to set myself up for a good week. So I want to have fun on the weekends with my family, and I don't want it to just feel like work. So I definitely meal plan and plan for my meal prep around my life, not the other way around. And this is about finding balance. Yes, meal prep is important for your weight loss goals, but also enjoying your life is just as important in being present with your family. You can do both. You just have to be really intentional about it. And one more thing on meal prep real quick. It doesn't have to be perfect, right? So some weeks I prep more than others, like depending on, what's happening, of course. Some weeks I just prep a few basics and rely more on like quick meals, like Kevin's paleo meals. My coaching group has been using these a lot because a lot of us are just packed right now with things going on, getting back into the routine of school and work. And, we've got a couple days off from school coming up. So, it's okay to not be perfect, but have a plan for when, you need those extra easy to go things in your fridge. So the system's flexible. What matters is that you're planning ahead and setting yourself up for success in whatever way works for that particular week. So, all right. So you've planned, you've shopped, you've prepped. Now, how do you actually stay on track during the week? So how do you execute? So this is where I have a personal system that works for me. I've shared this with my coaching clients, and they've shared their personal systems that have worked for them as well. And so I'm excited to share this with you. Hopefully you get something out of it. So I use a visual menu system, and this has been an absolute game changer for my family. And what I mean by this is I have a whiteboard on my refrigerator, and every week I write out our entire menu. I'm talking Monday through Sunday, breakfast, lunch, dinner, and everything's visible at a glance, But here's where it gets even better. I also note who's cooking every evening because I usually do have breakfast and lunch already prepped. So maybe Monday dinner is me, maybe Tuesday evening is my husband, Wednesday back to me, so I notate that. And this does a couple of things. First, it holds us both accountable. So my husband knows when it's his night, so he's mentally prepared for that. There's no like 5 p.m. scramble of wait, who's making dinner? And secondly, like, what am I cooking? Because this is never a fun conversation. It never ends well, right? So both my husband and I can look at this visual board, a whiteboard on our refrigerator to see exactly what we're having and who's cooking it. And if we need to pull something from the freezer, in the morning that day, we know because we have it on the board. So if we need to start the slow cooker, even like, so for example, yesterday I did a paleo chili, I knew that it was my night and I needed to start that early in the day. So everything is there. Everything is planned out. Now I work with some clients that use like apps on their phone for this, or they share a note on their phone with their husband and they each kind of like check things off and add to it. Clearly, my husband and I still live in the millennium days and don't love technology. I like to write it out and see it on my refrigerator. So yeah, this visual system is what works for us. Whether it is an app on your phone or a whiteboard on your fridge, like the point is it helps us and it will help you stay accountable to the plan, right? So when I walk past that whiteboard, a couple times a day and I see the plan, I see the healthy meals right now, it reinforces my commitment and to my plan, right? You're reminding yourself of the decisions that you made when you were in a clear headspace. And it's so much harder to abandon your plan when it's just like right there staring you in the face. So for my fellow moms out there, the whiteboard strategy also helps your kids too, unless they erase it and draw pictures over it, which my kids literally did last week, but it's okay. I also have a backup on my phone. They can see what's for dinner, right? And they're not constantly like asking you about it, especially with older kids. I have young toddlers that are like just learning to write their names. And so, they have fun with it. They're like, Mommy, what is that? And then they're drawing their names over it. But it's a nice way to be able to talk to your family and your kids about, I'm planning our meals out and I'm planning healthy foods because mommy has a goal for our family and you need to fuel your body for your basketball game this weekend. So you can start early on with your kids, educating them about the amount of effort, time, and planning that goes into, your meals. They don't just magically appear, right? So take about 10 minutes at the beginning of the week and write this out on an app or, on your refrigerator. It saves you so much decision fatigue and just confusion throughout the week. Honestly, if you take one thing from this podcast, like make it this. It's been a game changer. Get a whiteboard. I know it sounds silly. Put it on your fridge, write out your weekly menu. You'll be shocked at how much this simplifies your life, honestly. Okay, so off my soapbox about the whiteboard. Let's talk about something that some people feel guilty about, but absolutely shouldn't. And I say that because I used to feel guilty about it, but now I'm like walking around telling other people to do it. But it's okay. Everyone learns something. Everyone, like this isn't rocket science. This is something that someone did before me that I then learned from. All right. It is outsourcing, buying back your time. Okay. So moms, busy moms, we're always like afraid of this. We feel guilty. Maybe some of us aren't, it depends on your personality as a mom, but for those that do feel guilty, buying back your time isn't lazy. It's strategic. I mentioned earlier that I think I did. Yeah. That I use a meal prep service for my lunches, right? For 3 lunches a week. That's one form of outsourcing that directly supports my nutrition goals. And here's a couple more that I use. So I use a laundry service and a cleaning service. And my husband convinced me on the laundry service. And I have to say, it has been a huge game changer for sure. So thank you, Aunt. I finally bought into it and it's definitely paying off. But here's how we do it. So every Friday morning, we have one bag of laundry picked up by our laundry service. It's a local service, and it comes back clean and folded on Saturday morning. I have just one bag done, and it saves me hours across the weekend, right? I also have a cleaner that comes to my house twice per month. And these two services probably combined cut down close to 4 to 5 hours, I think, at least, of my time over the weekend. Do you know how much mental energy that frees up? Yeah. Now, I can hear some of you thinking like, but I can't afford that. I get it. I didn't think I could either. But not every service works, for every budget. But here's what I want you to consider. What is your time worth? What is your mental energy worth? If paying someone else to do your laundry means that you end up having the bandwidth to then do your meal prep and stick to your weight loss plan and lose the 15 pounds you said you wanted to lose, isn't that worth it? Absolutely, 100%. So laundry and cleaning services are just a couple examples. Maybe for you, it's having someone, come and drop off your groceries, right? Like hire a grocery delivery service or pay for a grocery delivery service instead of shopping in person on Friday nights. Maybe you get out a little bit more than me. Maybe it's getting, those meal prep lunches like I do delivered to your house. So maybe it's, lunches and dinners even. But the point is that, we often feel like we have to do everything ourselves, especially as moms, but doing everything yourself is what leads to burnout. It's what leads to being too exhausted to take care of yourself and using that as an excuse to not achieve your goals, right? And lose the weight you said you wanted to lose. It's what leads to abandoning performance goals, following through on signing up for that race you wanted to do, right? Because you just can't fit one more thing on your plate. So look at your week, look at what's draining your energy and ask yourself, is there anything here that someone else could do so that I can focus on what really I want to focus on and prioritize? And right now that might be your health goals, right? Your fitness goals. You might be surprised at what's possible. And if outsourcing just truly isn't an option for you right now, that's okay. Think about how you can simplify or eliminate instead. Like maybe you just lower your standards a little bit on having a perfectly clean house. Maybe you accept that, your kids can wear like their pajamas, like twice before washing them. Find ways to create more space in your life for what matters most, which right now, for a lot of us, right, in 2026 is our health. So all right, guys. So we're almost at the end. We're getting there, but I want to give you one more tip that's been really crucial for me and for my clients that I work with. And this is the midweek check-in. So by Wednesday or Thursday, I'm looking at the list that I talked about that I make on my refrigerator, and maybe it's on an app for some of you. And I'm also looking at like what I have left in my refrigerator. Am I running low on anything? Do I need to go do a quick top-up shop? And the reason this matters is that you don't want to get to Thursday evening and realize you're out of food, because that's when you order Uber Eats, right? That's when you've hit the drive-through. That's when all your planning goes out the window, and a midweek check-in only takes about 5 minutes. You look in your fridge, you look at your list, and if you need a few things, you make a quick stop at the store or you add them to a delivery order. This small habit prevents you from completely falling off track at the end of the week when you're the most tired. It's also a good time to do a check-in with yourself. How is your plan working? Are you actually enjoying the meals that you're cooking? Is there anything you want to adjust for next week? This isn't about beating yourself up if things don't go perfectly. It's just about being honest and making tweaks to the plan so that next week's even better. So I do this with my coaching clients through a video check-in on a weekly basis. And this is their time to reflect on all of these questions with me. And then it gives me the opportunity to provide some feedback and some guidance to them to make adjustments to their plan. Weight loss is not about perfection, guys. It's about consistency and then course correction when you need to, right? The midweek check-in gives you that opportunity to really stay on track without starting from scratch every single Monday. So, all right, let's bring this all together now. So, planning your week isn't just about losing 15 pounds, although it will absolutely help you do that. Control of your life. It's about reducing stress. It's about feeling confident and capable. It's about proving to yourself that you can set a goal and actually achieve it. When you plan your menu, plan your shopping, your meal prepping, your outsource what you can, and do that midweek check-in, you're not just losing weight, you're building a life that supports the healthiest version of you. And here's what I see happen with my clients over and over again. Once they start planning their weeks like this, everything else gets easier. They have more energy, they feel more in control, they start showing up better for themselves and for their families. They make less excuses, and the weight loss is almost just a side effect of becoming a more organized and intentional person. So I want to challenge you, if you're listening to this, pick one of these and implement it this week. Maybe you start with just writing out your menu. Maybe you get that whiteboard, stick it on your fridge. Maybe you look into a laundry service or a meal prep service. Don't try to do everything at once. It probably took me about a year to kind of build this whole plan and implement it, try it out, try other vendors. But yeah, just start somewhere, and then next week, add in another tip, right? Build your system gradually, but build it intentionally. And I promise you, 3 months from now, you'll be amazed at just how different life looks and feels. So, all right. Thank you so much for tuning in and hanging out with me today. If this episode resonated with you at all, please share it with another mom who's trying to lose some weight and is just feeling maybe a little overwhelmed at how do I do this? These tips and items that I execute on every week are pretty simple, but they're not easy to do because otherwise everyone would be doing them. You have to plan in advance, and then you have to just be consistent with this. So we're all in this together, moms. We all deserve to feel amazing in our bodies while still enjoying our lives. And you can do it. You can do it all. So keep planning, keep showing up for yourself, and remember, you've got this. So, all right, guys, I'm going to take a minute, see if anyone had anything, any notes for me. Some chats here. Woohoo. Yay, yay, yay. We got some people. Carlos is listening. Yes. Thank you for joining in. Aunt Flex is on me. Woo. Let's go. Yeah. Kroger delivery. I love that. Yes, we got some listeners. Coach Carlos here uses Kroger delivery. Yeah. I love that you outsource a little bit because I know you've got two young ones and you're busy. You and Sharon are both busy on the weekends. So find ways to create more space. Totally. Yeah. Yeah, it's you can't do it all, but it's about balance, right? And like my husband and I love to be present parents, and we like to enjoy our weekends together. And so, we find what works, and buying back our time a little bit right now is really helping. Like hire the coach, right? Yeah. Hire the laundry service, hire the cleaner. Don't feel bad about it. Awesome. Hell yeah. All right, you guys, thank you so much for listening. I would love to be your coach if you need some help executing on a plan like this. Don't hesitate to reach out. Email Lauren at ox.fit.